Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where we are diving into another fantastic new model coming out of Kershaw. This is technically a new variant of a knife that's been out for a little while, but it's a totally new blade shape. And this one really caught my eye because I have been wanting to see... that's like the third time I've tried to open this. I obviously have had this out of the box and stuff before, but I always struggle with those tabs on the Kershaw boxes. The moment I saw this blade shape, I knew I had to get it on the channel because this is the blade shape I've been wanting to see on an OTF for a very, very, very long time. In Kershaw, in my opinion, I think they may have perfected this blade shape, at least for an OTF, that is. That is the reverse tanto on the Kershaw Livewire OTF. Guys, this thing is a thing of beauty. But before I get into it, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now let's take a look at some overall specs on this American-made beauty right here. We have an overall length of 8.14 inches, a blade length of 3.36 inches, blade material of Magna Cut. It's not very often you see Magna Cut on OTFs, even with Microtech nowadays. You know, they have their M390 MK, which is a fine steel. But again, Magna Cut is just such a hot name right now in the knife world. It's amazing to see it on an OTF. This reverse tanto blade shape, this is so much like the Kershaw's design language. This very much reminds me of other Kershaw blades, but they took the reverse tanto, they made it look badass, and then they put it on the iridium. And man, oh man, do I enjoy this piece so much. A lot of it due to that blade shape, because I have reviewed the Livewire before and other blade shapes, but this really is elevated for me because of the blade. Aluminum material for the handle chassis, which I think we all know is pretty much what you see on just about every OTF nowadays. Flat grind on that reverse tanto with a handle length of 4.78 inches. We have a user of a left or right hand tip-up carry with, again, another very nice pocket clip design that we'll talk a little more about here in just a second. Weight coming in at 3.06 ounces. So for an 8-inch knife, 3 ounces is extremely solid. Great weight for this knife. Price coming in at $239.95, which is also very nice. For an American-made knife, this is, I think, a great value for the materials, for the origin of manufacturing, which everyone likes to complain about Chinese knives. Well, okay, here's an American-made knife for you. Costs a little more than maybe the average. No, I wouldn't even say that. Because really, this is one of the more competitively priced. I'm running through companies in my mind here. The knives, the other OTF brands that really stick out to me is first and foremost Microtech. Microtech's top dog with OTF, so we all know that. Axial Gear is another one that really sticks out to me. And then Kershaw. Kershaw's probably the third one. Of course, you know, you always think of the Hawk Deadlock, but that's really more of like a custom. That's not a production knife. It's kind of crazy to compare that knife to any of these. So really, those are your three big hitters in terms of OTFs. And the Livewire, it holds its own with all of them. I actually don't have any Ultratechs right now in my collection, but I do have this guy here that we'll compare it to. This is the Axial Gear Shift. Before I got the Livewire here, this was my most carried OTF by a country mile. I used to have a Combat Troodon, I think that's what it was. Or no, so what was it? I can't remember. The Dirac Delta. Good Lord. I used to have a Dirac Delta Microtech. Slightly different actuator position, but I actually sold that. These are the only two OTFs in my collection. And I have to say, they are extremely comparable. There are some differences between the Livewire and the Shift that we will go over here in just a second. One of the things I really like about both these knives is neither one of them have a glass breaker. So I'm just glad that's not on there because, the glass breaker, it's whatever. It can stay on the Ultratech. Here's your size comparison. Extremely similar to each other. And what really kind of What I like more about the reverse Tonto live wire compared to the drop point style axial shift is really not so much the blade. I love this reverse Tonto blade shape, but I also really love the drop point. Surprisingly, what I really enjoy most about the live wire over the shift is the pocket clip. And some people are going to really disagree with me on that. Now, I really do I like the pocket clip on the shift, first of all. I'm not knocking it. I've actually, when I reviewed this knife, I said the clip was one of my favorite things about it. And it is still one of my favorite things about it. But I prefer this clip a little more because the feel of it in hand, you just kind of don't feel it at all. I mean, you feel it a little, but man, oh man, as small as that is, the way it falls in my hand, you almost don't feel it at all, which is a beautiful thing. When you're holding the shift in your hand, you feel the pocket clip. It's not a hot spot, it's not a problem, but you definitely feel it because it's just so much bigger, it's so much wider, it's so much more visually dominant. How would you not feel it more? So that's the real big thing here. In terms of carry, they honestly both pretty much carry the same. I mean, maybe they carry a little differently because the clips angled a different way, but in terms of actual carry in the pocket, there's really no difference. You just have a smaller, more stealthier pocket clip, I would say. Blends in with the lines and angles of the handle. And again, it feels better in the hand. So that's the real big advantage. In terms of firing power, they're really pretty much the same. How fast the blade flies out, I mean, I don't think the camera is really going to give it a lot of justice either way, but they're pretty much the same. The one slight difference in terms of the action on these two is there's a little more of a push to get the blade out on the live wire. Not necessarily a problem, you just don't have, there's a little less of a pull or push on the actuator of the shift compared to that of the live wire. Now, you could also look at that as a safety feature on the live wire, which it's very legitimately is a little more of a safety feature. And it's not an ergonomic issue because the way this feels in hand is very, very good. This is one of the most comfortable OTFs I've ever handled. Now, with that being said, the shift is also a very comfortable knife in hand. I don't have any issues with the shift. There's just a little more going on the chassis of the live wire that, for me, just feels a little better. I think these both look great. I don't have a problem visually with either one. And you can actually see, too, just the amount of travel on the actuators here is significantly different. There's noticeably more on the live wire. Again, that's not necessarily a problem. That's just worth noting. When it comes to the actual actuator itself, that's a very important thing to me because, in my opinion, that's what Microtech does the worst job on. Their actuator is way too aggressive in your hand. It's just not comfortable. It'll eat your thumb up. Both of these are very good, and really the live wire is just about perfect to where it's kind of walking a line to where it's just, if they took any less off, it might be a problem, but not a problem at all. You see how it kind of narrows up here on the top of the actuator? That kind of reduces the amount of grip, but because you have it fully along the sides and the way it increases there, this is a very, very favorable actuator on the thumb. Very easy to you can actually slide your thumb over and slide it back as you're actuating it to where it won't eat your thumb up, and it's still very, very smooth and good. And it's just, for EDC, for true EDC, of someone who's just going to use this to cut paper and packages and all the regular stuff we do in our EDC world, this is about as good as it can get. And it is slightly better than the shift, in my opinion. Shift is still really good, but the live wire does slightly edge it out in that, to where it's just very, very, very satisfying. So in terms of action and firing power, they're about the same. The shift is about to come off the table because that was mostly what I wanted to compare it with. But what we have here from Kershaw is a very, very complete offering at a very good price. $240 for this knife, American made, Magna Cut, no issues. Great value, great knife, very fidgety as most OTFs are, and just very smooth. The recoil when the blade is shooting out or coming back in, just very smooth, it just feels very good. Feels very good. So yeah, that is the Livewire Reverse Tonto, guys. Let me know what you think of this. This is obviously not the first Livewire. There's been the Spear Point, the Tonto, and other variants of it out, but this is my favorite one. This, by far and away, kind of takes the cake for me for now. Very interested to see what else develops within the Livewire family, because I think the Livewire family has a ton of potential for more variants, more blade shapes, more additions and tweaks to the overall visual design. Really, really cool knife and just a great OTF made here in America. So let me know what you guys think of the Kershaw Livewire Reverse Tonto. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.